Welcome to The Definitive Wrap, where we report the truth about American exceptionalism. We love our flag, we love our country, and we believe in America. The Definitive Wrap, where we respect people of faith, the men and women in blue, and our support for Israel. And now, your host, Baila Sebrow on The Definitive Wrap.
Hello, and welcome to The Definitive Wrap. I am Baila Sebrow. Thank you to Five Towns Central for sponsoring this show. Western values have always believed in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In other words, individual freedom, human rights, equality, democracy, and following the law. Western values still hold by those beliefs, except when it comes to Israel. Western values have always believed that a country under attack has the right to defend itself, except when the country is Israel. How does that even make sense? The world, as we once knew it to be, is no more. Wrong has become right, and right has become wrong. With us today is our honored guest, Hillel Fuld. Dubbed Israel's top marketer, journalist, and social influencer, Hillel works with leading tech entrepreneurs, investors, and visionaries to accompany them on their journey from idea to revenue. Since the war began on October 7th, Hillel has been dedicated to utilizing his skills, team, connections, and abilities to promote the positive message of Israel and the Jewish people, and of course, combating anti-Semitism through social engagement. Hillel, it gives me tremendous pleasure to welcome you to The Definitive Wrap.
Thank you so much. I must know the backstory of the name of the podcast. What's Definitive Wrap?
The backstory of Definitive Wrap is it started, this particular show started in 2020, and it's a political and human rights show, and we speak the truth and we say it like it is. And,
okay.
whatever the media, whatever myths the media puts out there, we set them straight.
Okay.
We just heard the news that Tzila Gaz has died in a bone-chilling, horrific act of terrorism. A pregnant woman in the Shomron, on the way to deliver her baby, was targeted and shot. Her baby was delivered, and she died a few hours later. On October 7th, among the unspeakable atrocities committed, pregnant women, and I know we have an audience of children too, but this is something that everyone wants to know and needs to know, really needs to know, because this needs to go down in history. But one of the unspeakable atrocities committed on October 7th, pregnant women had their stomachs cut open by Hamas terrorists. Tzila's murderer targeted her. He knew she was pregnant. He's still at large as far as I know as we're recording this show. But Hillel, you and I know that when he is caught, Western society will justify his act and call him a freedom fighter. How can the Western society, known for its sophistication and academic achievement, refer to such terrorists as freedom fighters?
First of all, we don't have to wait till he's caught. It's already happening now. If you open Twitter, he's, this monster is being glorified already now. And I'll be honest with you, for many, many years, I struggled with it. I struggled with, just the level of barbarism and just vile, inhumane behavior perpetrated by our enemies, and the world's lack of, reaction to it. But at some point, I reached a point where I'm like, listen, you could either bang your head in the wall and, lose your mind from the insanity, or you could realize that this reality, this scenario in which we find ourselves, is so far from logical and rational and reasonable that it is so obvious that it's not logic that's running this war, and it's not humans, it's not people that are running this war. I don't know why God does what he does, but this war from beginning to end, and I mean that literally from beginning to end, makes zero sense all the way back to October 7th. And what I'm about to say might offend some of your listeners, but
go for it. That's what we do here. We hold nothing back.
So I think that it's very hard to say what I'm about to say, and it's very hard to see what I see. But if you look at October 7th from a historical perspective, if you think about what you're going to tell your grandkids one day, your grandkid's going to say to you, there was a holiday in Israel, and 5,000 genocidal maniacs marched into Israel, a country smaller than New Jersey, with hours and hours of free hand and unlimited access to automatic weapons. And your grandson's going to look at you and say, it sounds like they murdered millions of people that day. And you're going to say, it wasn't millions of people. And he's going to say, well, how many was it? And you're going to say 1,200. 1,200, wait a second. 5,000 terrorists with unlimited automatic weapons spraying bullets in all directions for 8 hours only. And I say only with quotes because obviously every life that's lost is a world. But they only killed 1,200 people. They should have killed 100,000 that day. Israel should be wiped off the map. There is no logical explanation that we even exist. And that's not a statement that's specific to this war. It's throughout our history. The existence of the Jewish people is in and of itself a miracle. We should not be here.
Yes.
So,
you're
October
right.
7th.
By logic, not. Throughout
Right.
history. Yes, you're right.
Right. And so October 7th was the beginning, but every single thing that happened throughout this war, for better or for worse, some of them, are hard to understand in a negative way, but we are not running the show here. And so instead of banging my head on the wall, I look up to Hashem and I say, I don't know why you're doing what you're doing, but, I know that you're doing it. And, if you're asking me on a more rational level, the hatred of Jews really blinds people. It really makes people lose their minds. And I mean that quite literally, because you have some of the smartest, most intelligent people in the world,
Yep.
really, without an exaggeration, who are just blatant anti-Semites. And you
Makes
look
no
at these
sense.
people.
It just makes
and
no sense. We're talking about sophisticated people, educated people. How do they not see?
Right. I mean, you talk about, just to give an example, you talk about a man named Paul Graham, who is one of the top tech investors in the world, very, very respected in the tech world, big investor, truly one of the best investors in the world. And he's just a blatant anti-Semite. I mean, the things that he tweets are just absolutely repulsive and obviously all blood libels. And you think to yourself, like, how is a person that smart so dumb? And the answer is that the hatred of Jews blinds blinds people, and it makes them do things that make no sense. And you wonder, like, this is a guy who's data driven, right? He makes investments based on data, based on facts, based on information. And yet when it comes to the Jews, he'll believe anything. I mean, I speak about this quite often. Forget for one second, Middle East politics. Forget for one second geopolitics. Forget knowledge. Forget history. Forget it all. Let's say you know nothing about anything to do with the Middle East, okay? You know zero. You're 11 years old. Tell me how you look at their narrative, and when I say them, I mean our enemies, online or offline, and you look at the things that they're saying. Tell me how to reconcile the claim that we are committing genocide and there's famine in Gaza and there's starvation, and at the same time, the same people are claiming that the hostages are being fed well. Like, do you hear what you're saying? Like, how are the same people saying that they want Palestine from the river to the sea, aka erase Israel, and at the same time, the same people are saying two-state solution? You're contradicting yourself. That doesn't make any sense. How are you declaring on the streets of every major city in America, globalize the Intifada, which is a literal call for genocide and
wiping out the Jews,
and then the same people who are calling for globalize the Intifada are saying ceasefire now? Like, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You could be an 11-year-old kid and you'll realize that their lies contradict themselves, right? Their narrative is one big contradiction from beginning to end. And so the fact that there are people around the world who believe this garbage is mind-boggling, but you either laugh or you cry.
Beyond mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hillel, you too have also unfortunately experienced terrorism in your family. Please tell us about your brother Ari, Zichrono Livracha.
Sure. So we're 5 boys. Ari was one above me in the lineup. He came to Israel by himself before the family. He volunteered for the IDF. He climbed up the ranks of the IDF. He was what's called a magist. What's a magist? It's a soldier that carries around a gun called a mag, or in English it's called a mag, which is a massive machine gun that weighs I don't even know how much, that was literally built from like inception to be put on a tank. It was not meant to be carried by a human being. So that should give you some sort of an idea how big Ari was. He was a 4th degree black belt.
He was
came
larger
to Israel.
than life.
That's right. He came to Israel. He volunteered. He climbed up the ranks. He got, he finished his duty in the army, and then he continued to volunteer for reserves duty, and then he continued until he got exemption papers, at which point he ripped up those exemption papers and continued to volunteer in the reserves. At his funeral, his sergeant said that he had just recently said to Ari, you're not 18 anymore. Maybe you should give the mag to someone else. And Ari was like, what are you talking about? This is my mag. He was very passionate about defending his people. Yes. In his day-to-day life, he fought and protected and defended his people online and offline. Went from yes. IDF base to IDF base, bringing yes. soldiers yes. food and anything they needed. He was a family clown, right? He was a 4-3 black belt. It wasn't fun to be the younger brother of a 4-3 black belt. Let's just say it like that. So 7 years ago, he was shopping for his family and minding his own business, and Arab kid, and I say Arab because I refuse to use the terminology of our enemies and give them, validation by calling them Palestinians, because they are not Palestinians. Golda Meir was a Palestinian. An Arab kid, and I say kid because it's very important that people understand that he was not a Hamas terrorist. He was an Arab kid living in right. Israel, living an affluent life, had no oppression, no occupation, right. no reason to kill anyone, and he woke up that morning and said, today is a good day to kill a Jew. And so he did. So he came from behind Ari and he stabbed him in his neck in a main artery, at which point Ari was clinically dead, basically. And miraculously, and I mean that literally, miraculously, he was able to chase down the terrorist, jump over a wall, and shoot the terrorist when the terrorist was inches away from his next victim, a woman named Hillel. Ari saved her life in his last breath, and then he collapsed and died, and Hillel has become a part of the Fuld family, and Ari has become a national hero for saving someone in his last breath. So Ari really lived a hero, he died a hero, and furthermore, in this last hostage deal, his terrorist was let out of prison, and a family was able to be reunited with their hostage child. And so from my perspective, he's continuing to save lives even after he's long gone.
Oh. And you're carrying on his legacy.
Doing my best.
You're doing more than your best. And
okay, I'll take
thank you.
Thank you.
Hillel, as it is all over the news, Qatar has offered to give President Trump the Boeing 747. Interestingly enough, this is not a state-owned plane, but rather it's the private plane of the former Prime Minister of Qatar, Sheikh Hamid bin Jassim bin Jaber Al Thani. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. In fact, the tail number of the plane includes his name, P4HBJ. The controversy is justified, in my opinion. And as I said at the definitive rap, we just speak our mind, and we say it like it is. It's not just speaking our mind, but we say it like it is. HBJ has blood on his hands, from sheltering 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed to funding Hamas in Gaza, to the tune of a monthly payments of $30 million. What is your take on this? And there's so much controversy, and, you read about it, and people are saying this and saying that, and what's your take on it?
So my take is that by the very nature of social media and media in general, everyone likes to present issues as if they're black and white, because in the world of social media, there is no gray, right? The algorithms don't like gray. The algorithms like the villain and the hero. And so people like to present it as if everything's black and white. Either Trump is amazing or he's horrible. Either Biden was amazing or he was horrible. Either Bibi's amazing or he's horrible. But the real life is not like that. Real life is gray. And when it comes to Trump, there's a lot of gray, because on the one hand, he's been a tremendous friend to Israel, all the way back from, moving the embassy to Jerusalem and recognizing the Golan Heights and everything that he's done for us. He's been a friend. And anybody who denies that is being dishonest. He's been a friend. That being said, he's far from an angel, and I'm not talking about his problematic personality. I'm talking about the things that he's done over the past couple of weeks. Many of the things he's done, either he's playing a very sophisticated game of poker, or he is slightly throwing his friends in Israel under the bus, because I don't know why he thinks it's normal to sign a deal with the Houthis that they will no longer fire at American vessels and leave Israel out of it.
I was going to talk about that, but I'm glad you brought that up.
So what kind of friendship is that if you're allowing them to continue to attack Israel? So that was weird. That was just one big weird just question mark. What was he thinking? But then he continued, and he signed a deal with Saudi Arabia without demanding normalization with Israel, which was what was previously discussed. And then he's negotiating with Iran, and he's announcing that he's about to sign a deal with Iran. And then he takes this jet from Qatar, and he wants to bring the hostage who was just released, Idan Alexander, to Qatar, the people that are funding Hamas. It's like, have you lost your mind? Right? So on the one hand, he's been a tremendous friend. On the other hand, he's been making moves lately that, again, either he's playing a very sophisticated game of poker and he knows that he's going to be meeting Arab states, so he doesn't want to be perceived as a, like a cheerleader for Israel. So he has to do a couple of things that are not in Israel's best interest so that he will be received in the Arab world. Right. Or he is, unfortunately, following in the footsteps of many of his predecessors, and when Israel needs him most, he is turning his back on us. But again, it's gray. It's not black or white. He's not a villain and he's not a hero. He's done amazing things and he's doing bad things. And so, like most things, including, of course, Bibi, and including everything, every issue, there's good and there's bad. And we need, I think, as responsible adults, we need to fight back against the algorithms and stop letting people believe that the world is black and white, because it's not.
And what is the general climate about this issue amongst people who live in Israel? I mean, we're recording, you're in Israel, I'm in the States, but I
would say confusion.
How do people feel about it?
Confusion. We're all very confused here. I'm confused. I mean, like, what? Like, you think it's okay to accept a $400 million Boeing plane from Qatar, the world's largest supporter of terror? Like, what? It's bizarre on a different level. And, I met with Mike Huckabee, Ambassador Huckabee, last week at the embassy and sat with him for an extended period of time and talked about a lot of topics. And his love for Israel and the Jewish people cannot possibly be faked. Okay? It's as authentic as can be. And I believe that that's the case with Donald Trump as well. I do believe he loves the Jewish people. I do believe he loves Israel. That is what I believe. But I also think that some of the things that he's been doing are just confusing. And I say that because it really is. It's mixed messages. On the one hand, you're doing these things to help us. On the other hand, you're going and negotiating with literally the people who funded Hamas. So it's very confusing. I feel like a lot of people are very confused. And I know that after I met with Ambassador Huckabee, I sent him an email asking him about all these rumors, and he said to me, it's all fake news. There's no tension between Netanyahu and Trump, and there's no breakup, and everything's fine. And so I posted that and kind of debunked the lies. But the reality is that ever since that email, Trump has continued to do things that are, again, questionable at best, and I would say somewhat, I don't want to use the word treasonous, but somewhat disturbing at worst.
I mean, is it possible that he's of the mindset you catch more bees with honey? Make friends. You make friends with your enemy.
Trump is the master of the deal.
I don't know, because I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on in his mind.
But you have to remember who Trump is. Trump is the master of the deal, right? The art of the deal. He's Mr. Negotiator. That's what he's best known for.
Well, he's a businessman by nature.
Right. So I want to believe, somewhere deep down, that there's some method to his madness, and he actually knows what he's doing. But the other side of my brain's like, Hillel, stop kidding yourself. Like, he's making mistakes.
Yeah. Hillel, what is your opinion of a Shin Bet agent that has confessed to being a Hamas double agent who actively deceived Israeli intelligence on the evening of October 7th massacre?
So first, I'll start with a disclaimer and say that I actually am not deeply familiar with the details of this case. So I'm speaking from what I've read. And I think the first thing that I'll do is correct the question. He was not a Shabak agent. He was someone who pretended to be a Shabak agent. He wasn't an actual Shabak agent. That's very important.
Okay.
But this won't be the first time. I think it's a broader question, which is, what is the role of Shabak in general? I mean, we know that there have been instances where Shabak investigated Israelis recently because they thought there's too much quote unquote Kahanism, too much of Kahana's philosophy being spread and decimated, and spread out in Israel, which is bogus, but that's a different topic. But is Shabak meant to defend Israelis or to investigate Israelis? And this is something we saw back in the times of the disengagement, where they were investigating all these people who were forcefully removed from their homes. So, the discussion of Shabak, and specifically as it pertains to who does Shabak report to, and that manifests in the fact that Netanyahu wanted to fire Ronen Bar, the head of the Shabak, and everyone freaked out. But he reports to the government. It's literally like black on white in the law. So we have to understand Shabak's role here. But, it won't be the first time that we've seen some very problematic behavior from within. Again, he wasn't a Shabak agent, but from within the Shabak world. I can tell you something that I don't speak about very often, but when Ari was alive, he was befriended by a man named Avishai Raviv, who basically tried to entrap Ari multiple times to do something illegal.
Wow.
This guy Avishai Raviv ate at my parents' Shabbos table. Like he was a friend. Like we had no reason to suspect, and it turns out that his role in the Shabak was to exactly do that, entrap right-wing Israelis who would do illegal things, and then they'd be arrested. And there's a lot of talk, and I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, and I definitely cannot confirm what I'm about to say, but there's a lot of talk about the fact that Avishai Raviv was the one that convinced Yigal Amir to pull the trigger and kill Rabin. But anyway, it doesn't matter if he did or if he didn't. The reality is that the Shabak has shown over the past couple of decades that there's some serious question marks about their role in Israeli society. That being said, again, this wasn't a Shabak agent, but there definitely needs to be an investigation, just like there needs to be an investigation into everything that has to do with October 7th, but there definitely needs to be an investigation into how this happened, because, someone within the lines of Shabak, again, even if they weren't really a Shabak agent, being able to, my understanding is that that person basically, when they were told about October 7th that it was going to be happening, that person told, I guess, his superiors or whatever, I'm updated, I know what I'm talking about, there's no attack, nothing's going to happen, whatever. And he basically, now, it would be dishonest to imply that there's one person who can be blamed for October 7th. It's not one person, there's a lot of people. But how that happened needs to be investigated, because it's obviously something that cannot repeat itself. I mean, again, this if what is being said is true, first of all, this is a person who, as far as I'm concerned, deserves capital punishment. That's full-blown treason.
Yeah.
It's 1,200 people died because of
treason, yeah.
Right. But again, I'm not deeply familiar with the details of the case. I still have to study it, but it's a very scary precedent. Let's just say that.
Oh, for sure. I know this is going to be a painful question, but and it's painful to any Israeli that I ask. Where were you during October 7th, and what did you hear throughout the day?
So I was walking to synagogue. It was Simchat Torah. I was walking with my now 14-year-old twins. And my shul, my synagogue, is about a 6-minute walk from me. And on the way to shul, on the way to synagogue, we heard rockets. We heard, detonations. We heard whatever, booms.
Right.
And as insane as it is to say the following sentence, that was pretty normal. Like, we didn't even get, that's a pretty normal reality.
Yeah, it seems to be the way people are living there. They expect it. It's a normal thing.
Right. So I basically ignored it. And I got to shul, and we started davening the prayers. And there was the first siren. So we all went back to the bomb shelter and waited. Then we went back to prayer, and then another siren, and then another. And it kept happening. And we realized, okay, this isn't just another rocket attack from Gaza. But remember, none of us had our phones on us. Right. So we didn't really know what was going on, but there were, rumors circulating. Oh, terrorists marched into Israel and broke the gate, the fence, blah, blah. And I was the one in shul saying to everyone, stop with the hysteria. There is no way that 5,000 terrorists came into Israel. That's not, there's no way that that's real.
Well, it seemed surreal. It seemed impossible.
Right,
yeah.
Right. But then, then the soldiers in the neighborhood started to get called up, and we knew something was very, very wrong. But I only found out the extent of it, obviously, when I turned on my phone at the end of the holiday. And I got to be honest with you, I remember the rumors circulating, and I remember reacting to October 7th and deciding to shut down my business and everything, but I actually do not remember the moment I turned on my phone and I read what actually happened. And I'm not a psychologist, but I would imagine that that's a defense mechanism because of deep personal trauma, that you kind of blank slate. I don't remember anything. But that's the reality. I really don't remember finding out, but I do remember, jumping into action as soon as I did find out.
Right. Oh my gosh. Nothing like, I mean, there have been massacres, but of this magnitude.
Yeah, it's hard to believe, truly hard to believe.
How did you get to be where you are right now, the popular Hillel Fuld, doing what needs to be done?
I know this is a bit of a cliche answer, so you'll forgive me, but hard work. Just hard work, I mean, 20 years ago or so, I was right out of college. I have a degree in political science. I have no idea how I'm going to get into tech, but I knew I was going to get into tech because I always loved tech. And at my first job, I'm just bored one day, and I said to myself, I love tech. I love writing. I'm going to start writing on the internet. So I bought a website, techandmarketing.com, and I just started writing my thoughts on tech. With no authority. I don't have a degree in computer science. I'm not an engineer. I'm just a guy who loved tech. But I went all in on my passion, which was, again, tech and writing. Everyone and their mother told me it's a bad idea. Everyone's like, blogging? What's blogging? How are you going to make money from this? But I knew how deep my passion, how authentic my passion was. So I went all in on it. And pretty quickly, entrepreneurs started to reach out to me, and they'd say, I read your article. I'd love to meet you. And that's when my imposter syndrome kicked in, because I didn't understand what they wanted from me. I'm like, I'm just a random dude on writing on a keyboard. Like, you're the CEO of a big tech company. What do you want from me? But I said, okay, I'll play along. And so I would meet these entrepreneurs, and I realized that Israelis are some of the smartest people in the world when it comes to building tech. But when it comes to building businesses, quite the opposite. And so I realized these guys don't know how to communicate what they do. They don't know how to pitch investors. They don't know how to do market research. They don't know how to do competitive analysis. So I started to help these guys over lunch. And again, it wasn't a job. I had a job. There was no money involved. It was just trying to be a mensch, trying to help. Right. Turns out being a mensch is the best business model in the world.
That's it. Yeah. When you walk the straight road,
yeah,
and
right.
You do what needs to be done that's right, it comes back at you in the right way.
Right. So entrepreneurs would reached out over the next 10 years, and they all said the same thing. They said, you don't remember me, but 10 years ago you met with me and you had lunch and you introduced me to this investor, or you helped us with this, or you helped us with that. Today we're a big company. We know what you're capable of because you showed us what you're capable of. What are your terms? How much do you cost? I said,
it always comes down to dollars and cents.
No, but they didn't ask that in a way of like, let's negotiate. They asked it in a way like, we want you no matter what you cost because we already know what you did for us. So what happened was I built a consulting business. I started, I think, maybe 10 years ago, and really it grew, exponentially over the years. And I worked with companies of all sizes and all shapes and all types, from two guys in a garage to Google, Microsoft, Oracle, and many, many other multinationals. And I was a kid in a candy store working with the smartest people in the world and just loving every second of it. Then, and one of those things, one of the places that passion manifested was on social media, right? So I would, promote my content on social media. And so I started to build a following. And anybody who followed me, was following a tech guy. I wasn't promoting Israel. Now, in my heart, I was promoting Israel. But if you followed me, you didn't get like Israel advocacy shoved down your throat. You got tech shoved down your throat. So people, followed me. But then after Ari was murdered, it kind of pulled me into the conflict a little more. And so I kind of half removed that mask, and I was a little bit more Israel oriented. But I was still a tech guy, meaning there are people who are not pro-Israel. Not millions, but tens of thousands, if not more of them, who follow me. And that's fine because they followed a tech guy. But then on October 7th, I realized that mask needs to go away. And I threw the mask away, shut down my business, fired all my clients. Their response was like, what? What are you talking about? Like what? But I knew that was not the time for more tech and more marketing. I knew that I needed to use my platform to help Israel.
Yes.
Not only because I had a lot of followers, but because those followers were people that other people did not have access to. The tech world is predominantly left-leaning / anti-Israel, and the fact that I have their ear makes me, unique in terms of where I'm positioned. And so I realized I need to leverage that. So I started becoming a source of real-time accurate information across my channels. and try to provide people with a reason to smile and get up in the morning. And that's what I've been doing since October 7th. I'm about to hit 3 billion impressions, which is a number that I can't even fathom. 3 billion is just, it's crazy. But yeah, it's been very gratifying on the one hand. I mean, a lot of people tell me I changed their minds. A lot of people tell me they make aliyah because of my posts, whatever. It's been great.
Yes.
But it is very much accompanied with an unparalleled amount of hate, the likes of which you cannot even imagine. Like I share some hate messages sometimes on my social media, like as a joke, and I like, you know, how I respond to these people, but I can't actually share the worst ones that I get. And some people out there, I mean, it's not, you know, I'm talking 5 to 10 times a day, either death threats or horrible hate, just really like a sick amount of hate from some really vile people.
When you do good, you're going to get hate. That's the way it works.
Yeah, well, they're coming from all directions. I mean, it's not easy. It's really not easy because, again, the left hates me, the right hates me, the Trump hates me, everyone. It's like, so, you know, I do what I do, but like, it's not. I'm not going to pretend that it's not an emotional challenge to deal with all the hate.
You're doing the work of God, Hillel.
Thank you.
And it's an absolute honor to have this opportunity and to hear you share with our audience all the great work that you do. Hillel, thank you for joining us today on the Definitive Wrap.
Thank you for having me.
I wish you the best of luck with everything that you do.
Thank you, and you know, keep spreading truth, because Ari's legacy. I mean, he left many legacies, but I would say, if you'd ask me, Ari's primary legacy was he had a zero tolerance policy for lies. You can't be around Ari and use the word West Bank. He'll shoot you down. Don't tell me West Bank. It's called Judea and Samaria. You can't be around Ari and say, you know, Israel occupied an Arab-Palestinian state. He'll say, what the hell are you talking about? Mm-hmm. So, you know, if your podcast is dedicated to spreading truth about Israel, then it's perhaps one of the most important missions in the world right now, is to fight back against the absolute disgusting, vile blood libels and lies being told about Israel that, again, make zero sense whatsoever, but still millions of people out there believe it. So we have to keep fighting.
Thank you very much, Hillel. Thank you again for joining us on the Definitive Wrap, and thank you to our audience for tuning in. Shalom.
Thanks for listening to The Definitive Wrap with your host, Baila Sebrow. Be sure to tell your family and friends they also can catch The Definitive Wrap on Apple Music, Spotify, Google Play, and your favorite streaming service. See you next time on The Definitive Wrap.